The Canadian Prime Minister on our Prime Minister's home turf, Gujarat. That's Justin Trudeau and family visiting the Gandhi ashram. Trudeau's Gandhigiri in full swing. Yet no hug from Mr. Modi. Is this a cold shoulder or possibly tit for tat? The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's week-long trip to India barely created any ripples, till now at least. Trudeau received a lukewarm welcome at the start of his official visit, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi did not break protocol to receive his Canadian counterpart. But then, so didn't his Canadian counterpart when the Prime Minister had gone to Canada. Now, unlike the visits of other leaders, where at least our Prime Minister had. Take a look how Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada's visit, has panned out till now. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's first official visit to India has not been the headline-grabbing fest he's accustomed to. Trudeau and family landed in India with folded hands or namaste. But the welcome was nowhere near the grand affair arranged for then American President Barack Obama, Chinese President Xi Jinping, or even the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Prime Minister did not break protocol to welcome the Trudeau family. They were received by Minister of State for Agriculture, Gajendra Singh, and Indian High Commissioner to Canada, Vikas Swarup. Analysts suggest the lukewarm response to Trudeau's visit could very well be the result of his support for Khalistanis back home. Punjab Chief Minister Amrinder Singh had last year refused to meet with the Canadian Defence Minister, Harjit Sajjan, alleging that he and several other members of the Trudeau cabinet sympathised with the cause of separate Khalistan. 2 of 4 Sikh ministers in Trudeau's cabinet, Harjit Sajjan and Amarjit Soni, have known to be sympathisers of elements supporting Khalistan in Canada.
India is a stronger and healthier nation with all of its units working together. And, so the internal politics, I'll leave that for the politicians here. Many of the MPs that are a part of this tour are going with the Prime Minister. Wherever the Prime Minister goes, they're going to different areas.
It's not just Amrinder Singh who is keeping an arm's length from the dignitaries. Even UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath was not at the Taj Mahal during the Canadian Prime Minister's visit to the monument. Government sources, however, are quick to dismiss speculations. They say that Prime Minister Modi, during his visit in 2015 to Canada, wasn't received by the then Minister of State, Stephen Harper. They claim the Prime Minister is sticking to protocol which was tweaked in 1984. It dictates that it is not mandatory for the Prime Minister to be at the airport. The picture is likely to get clear when the two leaders finally meet in New Delhi on 23rd February.
Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, not being received at the airport by Prime Minister Narendra Modi is basically following protocol. There was a minister in waiting at the airport to receive the Prime Minister. There are concerns that India has when it comes to Khalistani issue, and that will be dealt with on the 23rd. Before that, it's a private visit, and there is no need for the Prime Minister to accompany the Canadian leadership. With the journalist Ashwini Helen in New Delhi, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
All right, let me bring in Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director, India Today. He's joining me in the studio. Raj, how do you look at all of this? Because is it actually a cold shoulder, as is being projected? Or do you reckon that India taking a cue of what's happening in Canada and how Mr. Trudeau has dealt with India?
Well, the moment Prime Minister Modi has greeted a certain number of leaders and taken them to Ahmedabad, the perception is that if he's not doing that, then it's not important. I don't think that is a correct reading of the situation. Though it is correct that there is a shadow on our relationships with Canada, and particularly Mr. Justin Trudeau's approach towards the Sikh issue. He has, for instance, seemed to have quoted the hardliners in his country for maybe political reasons, because they form quite a majority in Ontario, where they face an election. His Liberal Party faces an election. And there was great disappointment when last year the Ontario Provincial Assembly passed a resolution terming the 1984 Sikh riots as a genocide. Also that he attended a particular day of celebrations where a lot of the radical elements were there, and photos of the so-called martyrs of 1984 were also present. So India feels that the core concerns they have about the Sikh issue is not being addressed or being overlooked by Mr. Justin Trudeau and his cabinet. And therefore you see that there is there is not the kind of bonhomie that you would normally see. After all, he's a rock star Prime Minister, lauded across the world for his badge.
Yeah, one would have thought a lot more going on the sidelines, Raj, with his visit. Because that is usually...
given the fact that his final bilateral visit, summit with the Prime Minister will happen much later, then normally the protocol is that the guest of honor decides where he wants to go, and he's chosen his itinerary quite carefully, including a visit to the Golden Temple where he makes a certain point. And, he pushes on his agenda of feminism, liberalism, multiculturalism, and he's showcasing those on his visit before he meets the Prime Minister. I think the most important thing is what is the kind of statement, not important in that sense, but where his stand would be when he has the bilateral summit and there is a public statement to say what is his views on the Khalistan issue. And I think that we have not seen so far from any comments coming in from him.
So you reckon the Prime Minister, that big hug moment, because we've seen our Prime Minister hug possibly every world leader, is waiting for that statement to come out and maybe then we'd see the hug?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think Geeta is right when she says that protocol has been followed.
Right.
A Minister of State has landed up over there of Agriculture. He has visited him. He's coming with a large delegation. There's still great photo ops that you can see, which we were also carrying, of him, throwing his son up in Taj Mahal and his family there, now in Ahmedabad, and, at the Gandhi Ashram. So you are seeing the sort of hoopla that goes with such a visit. But I think what everyone is watching is what is the kind of statement he'll make. Obviously, relations with Canada is very important. Let's not forget, we've just about mended the relationship. It has always been jinxed. We've had this roller coaster. And in 2015, when Prime Minister Modi went, they actually entered into a strategic partnership. He also finalized and operationalized the nuclear deal, which is a huge elephant in the room because, Canada had
that's what I wanted to come
imposed sanctions on both fronts, 1974 and in 1998. It had imposed sanctions. On the first count, it withdrew its support, technological support, and left us high and dry with the technology that we had imported from there. And in the second count, in 1998, imposed economic sanctions. Now, that we've begun to recover from, and we seem to be, our business and trade relations are growing. But certainly the Sikh issue and the approach that the Liberal Party has, Mr. Justin Trudeau in particular, has cast a long shadow over the relationship.
So, contrary to what, say, the world media is reporting today, that, India gives a cold shoulder to Trudeau. And, when you juxtapose it, say, possibly with images of our Japanese counterpart, Chinese counterpart, Israeli counterpart, American counterpart, and you see all those images flying through. At face value, you do seem to, that maybe we haven't really given him that kind of reception. But when you actually look deeper, the cold, maybe not the cold shoulder, but it's actually coming in from Canada as well.
Correct. And
I think both countries have mulled and gone ahead to see where they stand today.
Absolutely. And I don't think you may not see a relenting of Mr. Justin Trudeau's stand on the particular issue. So that is what India is concerned about. So let's put it this way. It is not an exuberant relationship. A welcome. Right, at the moment. And the welcome also shows that. But it is certainly not an insulting welcome.
But you've taken a cue from Canada. You've taken a cue on how they've dealt with these issues.
If they were open with us and Mr. Trudeau, after all, let's not forget Prime Minister Modi, as soon as Mr. Trudeau was elected, congratulated him and invited him to India. It took him 2 years and a little more months for him to come to India. In the meanwhile, he had visited China twice. So he's also setting the priority. If he said within the first 6 months, Mr. Modi, I'm going to come to India, the first thing on my mind is India, you would have seen a vastly different relationship. Because let's not forget, in 2015, there was actually a bromance between Mr. Trudeau's predecessor, Mr. Stephen Harper, and Mr. Modi for this terrific visit that they had, and everything looked hunky-dory till Mr. Trudeau came and then didn't seem to push the relationship and then went further down the road in terms of, quoting the hardline Sikhs. So India was saying, what's this? We did a lot. And suddenly we seem to have another setback on it. And I think this relationship should mend fences if he wants to do it. This is the brilliant occasion
This is an occasion that could take it further,
Absolutely.
right? Raj, stay on with me. Let's also bring in Geeta. I believe she's joining us live. Geeta, with what Raj and I were discussing, diplomacy, a tightrope walk in India, pretty much following protocol here. Nothing more to be read into it.
Absolutely, Preeti. I mean, we normally news of breaking protocols really makes to the papers, to the newspapers, and to the television channels. Over here, not having broken protocol has made it to news. The Canadian media expecting a lot more than what really is. not breaking protocol certainly does not mean the Prime Minister is giving Prime Minister Justin Trudeau a cold shoulder. What it really means is that there is a lot that needs to be done between India and Canada, and the real aspects of the ties, which will begin on the 23rd of this month when the two leaders meet, is when we'll realize and we'll see where the leadership is going to take the ties forward. For now, it's a private visit, it's a private tour that the Prime Minister of Canada is taking with his family members. This, Preeti, is the first time that Justin Trudeau has brought his entire family. So it's a private moment, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is keeping away from it. Also, like the discussion has been revolving around the Khalistani concerns that India has, and those concerns would have to be really looked into and addressed by the Canadian side. Unless and until that happens, how and why should India or the Indian Prime Minister consider Justin Trudeau or the Canadian Prime Minister and leadership a really good and true friend? If the visuals would have been of Modi and Trudeau really hugging, and Justin Trudeau goes back and has the very same event, a repeat of the very same event as was in June 2017, when he went to an event which had Khalistani posters and Khalistani flags and Bhindranwale's posters, then it would have been a disaster for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So it's not really giving Justin Trudeau a cold shoulder, but trying to see things in perspective, and keeping that in mind, the Indian Prime Minister has chose not to really go ahead and break protocol this time around.
All right, thanks Geeta for joining us. Let me get a quick word, final word from you, Raj. So no snub to the Canadian Prime Minister. Basically, diplomatically prudent. Wait till the 23rd and see what comes out
Absolutely.
of that.
I think they've taken the right approach in this. They've indicated that, look, this is not exuberant in terms of the welcome that is there. There are issues that we need to sort out. And as Geeta rightly pointed out, this is a very sensitive issue for Mr. Modi himself.
Right.
Let's not forget, his party lost the coalition, in the previous election, and Captain Amrinder Singh came
Punjab,
in.
yes.
His approach to the moderate path that is there is going to be critical. He cannot be seen shaking hands with a leader who's been, in some senses, fawning over radical elements. He needs great clarity, and I think one of the outcomes of this is to get that clarity from Mr. Trudeau. He may not relent. And that's what we need to see. And that, as you said, is the right time to then give a hug once that happens.
Right. Okay. Well, let's just see how 23rd pans. I appreciate you joining us, Raj Chingappa, as well as Geeta Mohan. With that, welcome back. You're watching To The Point. Now, after news reports at the beginning of this year said that former star cricketer-in-chief of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Imran Khan, had tied the knot for the third time, his party has now confirmed that indeed Khan has married his spiritual guru, Bushra Bibi. The party issued pictures of Imran's nikah with Bushra Bibi, in which close relatives of the bride could be seen, and of course no picture of the bride yet, completely in hijab. In one of the pictures, he's seen signing the nikah document. Imran Khan, who was 65-year-old, first came in touch with Bushra Bibi, his new wife, for spiritual guidance a couple of years ago, and it seems that's what turned to love. All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of News. Do stay tuned. Up next is my colleague Padmaja with To The Point.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.